Hey, everybody, it's Tommy Canale, and welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show to find out how those in sports, music, and entertainment made their mark. Today, he coached for over 45 years. He's an author, was an all-around athlete, and the recipient of numerous awards, a genuine leader, and a member of the Topeka and Shawnee County Sports Hall of Fame, a recently retired college and professional basketball coach who played at Kansas State and was a head coach at Texas Pan American, Kansas State, Florida, Illinois, UNLV, Oklahoma, and the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA. He finished with a collegiate record of 674 and 432 and is one of 3 coaches to lead 5 different programs to the NCAA tournament. He was in 2 Final Fours and 4 times named Conference Coach of the Year and 2 times was Big 8 Player of the Year. A Hall of Fame in coaching and leadership. Please welcome to the show, Coach Kruger. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the opportunity. Look forward to visiting with you.
I am as well. I want to give a special shout out to Tony Cayazzo, who's the connection between us, and Tony and Eric are good guys.
Yeah, they're great guys. Played 10 years ago before we left UNLV to go to Oklahoma. I was playing a lot of golf with Tony and Eric, of course, is the fixture on the golf scene in Vegas. 2 really good guys, and look forward to hooking up with them more here in the near future.
You were born in Silver Lake, Kansas, attended Silver Lake High School, lettered in all 4 years in football, basketball, and baseball. Senior year, averaged 23 points per game and went to the state tournament. In football, passed for over 2,000 yards and 23 touchdowns, and in baseball, went to the state tournament. What is your favorite sport?
Tony, actually, growing up was always baseball. My dad was a huge baseball guy and coached all of our little league teams. And, we had really good teams at Silver Lake. Of course, there were 35 in our graduating class. So all the guys played everything. All the guys lettered and everything. So it wasn't that unusual to do what you listed there. But no, it was a great experience, really down to earth, middle America, middle income, growing up type family, that oldest of 6 kids and great parents and just a great upbringing.
You were a point guard at Kansas State under Coach Jack Hartman. You had back-to-back Big 8 championships in 72 and 73, and you were his first player signed. What did Coach Hartman teach you?
Yeah, Coach Hartman was great. Just an honor to play for him. He was very detail-oriented. I thought he did a great job of getting the most from his players, putting them in good position all the time to have the best chance to be effective and successful. And he did that with his teams, not only just individuals, but also his teams. And his teams were always really good defensively, but attention to detail and preparation was probably the thing that he most represented, and always did a great job of that.
Did you take anything from him that you used in your coaching style?
Of course, you take a lot from all the coaches that you had. I had really good high school coaches as well, and then Coach Hartman, and then you borrow a little bit from all the coaches that you play against when you're coaching. So, but Coach Hartman was the center of a lot of it for sure, and appreciated that opportunity.
Shortstop pitcher on the baseball team. You're drafted in 1970 by the Astros, and then in 74 by the Cardinals. And you played in the minor leagues, and you were also the 9th round pick for the Atlanta Hawks in the 74 draft. How are you deciding which way you were going to go?
Well, again, coming out of college, played actually a year of minor league baseball and enjoyed that. And then went overseas and played basketball in Israel that off season. We got in the playoffs over there. Didn't get back in time for spring training with the Cardinals. They didn't call. They weren't too worried about it. So that kind of ended the baseball part of it. And then came back and went to the exhibition season, played through the exhibition season with the Pistons, then got cut there. So it wasn't good enough to play anything, so I had to turn to coaching.
Well, the NBA draft wasn't then in 74 as it is now with all the hoopla. So how did you find out you got drafted?
Yeah, I don't know that, like you say, it wasn't a matter of following the draft. And I think I heard about it the next day or something. I don't recall. But of course, back then it wasn't like it is today by any means. But enjoyed that opportunity. The draft didn't really sign with anyone. The draft went overseas and played Herb Brown, actually, with their coach in Israel. He was the assistant coach with the Pistons, so came back later on and went to camp in Detroit. But great experience, great relationships throughout, and fortunate to be a part of it.
Did you also get invited to the Dallas Cowboys camp as well? And if so, did you attend it?
That was a little bit of it sounds better than it was, the tryout with the Cowboys. That was, sounds good on paper, but no, that was a case where the Cowboys were sending people to campuses around the country and working out non-football athletes, people that played basketball or people ran track or whatever. So they came to campus and worked us out a little bit. But that was the extent of that.
You mentioned that you got into coaching. You started as a grad assistant at Pittsburg State. How did that all transpire for you?
Yeah, finished up, the playing days and a little bit of minor league baseball and basketball overseas, and then came back and decided coaching was the next best thing. So Bob Johnson was the head coach at Pittsburg State at that time, and he was a former student at Kansas State and part of the basketball program there. So I called him, and he said, "Sure, come on down. We need grad assistant." So we went down there and did that for a year and loved it, and met some great people in Pittsburg, Kansas, and got the master's degree in PE there. Got the undergrad in business administration from Kansas State. So met a lot of good people there.
You end up going back to Kansas State. And did you start there as a grad assistant as well, Coach?
I did. That was back when the rules were a little bit different, so you could have a different number of coaches. But I was a grad assistant, I guess, but didn't take any classes. It was one of those deals. But was assistant there, grad assistant there for probably 5 years with Coach Hartman, and loved every minute of that. And then became a head coach of Pan American at that time in 1982.
When you went to Pan American, you started out at 7-21 and had 3 losing seasons, and then went 20-8. As a former coach, was the mind spinning after 3 losing seasons, going, "All right, what did I get myself into as a head coach?"
A little bit. It's one of those deals where you're not sure here. As took over a program, I think it had won 5 games the year before, and we thought we were making progress, and yet we weren't winning at the level we needed to. Then we had a couple of good players, and we won 20 games. And luckily, that kind of coincided with the moment that Coach Hartman decided to step down and retire. But of course, Coach Hartman had a lot of pull in who was going to succeed him at Kansas State. But it gave him a little bit more ammunition, since we did have a decent year that 4th year at Pan Am.
What was it like for you after playing at Kansas State, assistant at Kansas State, and then going back to be the head coach at your alma mater?
It was a dream. It was great. I mean, obviously loved Kansas State, loved the relationships there, loved the teammates. I mean, everything, the opportunity to play with Coach Hartman and then work alongside him, then to replace him. I mean, obviously we're inheriting a program that was long on work ethic and discipline. And so it's probably the easiest transition for a first-time head coach that we could have had. And then coincidentally, we recruited Steve Henson, who was a terrific player, and Mitch Richmond, who was a terrific player, and that helped a little bit more than anything else.
It does. How was it coaching those two guys in Henson and Richmond?
No, it was great. I mean, in Steve Henson, you got the ultimate, worker, competitive, great leader, point guard. Then, of course, in Mitch Richmond, you got a future NBA Hall of Famer in terms of skill and just big time competitor and big time worker. And both were big on team first attitudes and great leaders. And we had good teams.
Coach, you just brought up something that for the listeners out there that may or may not understand the insights of how college basketball coaching is going. When you get players like that, you get 1 or 2 guys, whether they're the level of a Henson or a Mitch Richmond, but you get any kind of player that can lead a team, it makes coaching a whole lot easier, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you got your best players who are your best workers, who are on the same page with the coaching staff and understanding that we're all pulling in the same direction. That's when you have your best teams, no doubt about that. If you're having to fight your talented players, or if you have to battle your older leadership guys all the time, then you usually don't go as far as you could. So when you get everyone on the same page and those good players are your best workers, you've got a really good chance.
In 90 to 96, you were at Florida, and when you took over Florida, it was a school that had small success, but mainly it was in the SEC that they were having success. And you end up leading that team to the 1994 Final Four. What was the main thing for you looking back that got that program turned in the right direction?
Again, we had some players that had been there for 2 or 3 years, and they were great attitudes, really talented. The Craig Brown was a senior on that squad. Andrew DeClerc played many years in the NBA afterwards. Dimitri Hill, Dan Cross. I mean, we had just really, really, good chemistry. The pieces fit well together, and we had talent. Brian Thompson was the fifth starter on that team that really, took a lot of pride in guarding other people's best player and rebounding the basketball. And then, of course, Dan Cross was the leader, and Craig Brown was the leader, and DeClerc was the NBA guy, and Dimitri Hill could really score. So we had all the pieces, to be a good basketball team. And those guys really, trusted each other and took care of their respective responsibilities.
Looking back, that was the first time you got into a Final Four with Florida in 94. As a coach, when it's over, do you look back and think, maybe I could have done some things different because it's such a whirlwind being there for the first time? Everybody wants to get to the pinnacle of the Final Four?
You always do that as a coach. You always, everyone else second guesses the coach, but not more than the coach does himself.
Yep.
You're always self-critical. Could have done this or could have done that. We lost to Duke in the semifinals in a game that went down to the last minute. And you always go back, and I think we had the ball down 2 with a minute to go and got a charge call at midcourt. But you always go back and say we could have done this, we could have done that. But I think it was more about Grant Hill doing a good job and making shots against us than anything else.
One of the things as a coach that I never did, and I've found more and more coaches, I thought I was a rarity, but have found since then that a lot of coaches never watch the last game of their season. I never did, and I'm talking to many friends of mine that are coaches, rarely go back to watch the last game of a season. I think they think that we want to see it again, and I tell everybody, hey, I was there. I can replay it in my head as many times as I want. I don't need to see the film.
Understand that. Some years that was the case with us. Some years we didn't watch it. Other years we did out of curiosity, especially if you got players coming back for the next season. You're going to go back and watch it probably more likely. But, that last game is always hard. Everyone loses that last game except a couple people in the country, and it's always difficult. It ends kind of abruptly for most.
Agree. 96 to 2000, you take over Illinois. If you would, how was it coaching the trio of Sergio McLean, Frank Williams, and Brian Cook? Because that were 3 really good players.
They really were, and that was really the key to kind of getting the Illinois situation turned when Sergio, from Peoria right there, he was kind of an icon of high school basketball players in the state. When he and Marcus Griffin was actually a teammate, and Frank Williams was a younger guy on that same squad. When those guys decided to be Illini, that kind of got things going and the ball rolling, and Illinois had a pretty good stretch of basketball after that.
Yeah, and I was living in Illinois at the time, and I remember that team got everybody pumped up in the state of Illinois because, as you said, 3 Peoria guys, and Sergio McLean's father was the coach at Peoria. Manuel had won 4 state championships in a row. And to see all those guys go there, I mean, the level of excitement was high in Illinois at the time with those guys playing for University of Illinois.
That really was. Again, Illinois is a state that takes a lot of pride in its high school basketball. You get and Brian Cook, Sergio, you get the player of the year, a few times in succession, and good things are going to happen. So, that was a great stretch, and certainly, even after we left, it became better when Bill took over, and then Bruce comes in and goes to the Final Four. So good basketball for Illinois right there.
Yes, there was. When did the opportunity for the Atlanta Hawks first get presented to you when you were at Illinois?
Yeah, that was kind of an unusual situation. Back in 2000, Tom Izzo was at Michigan State, and I was at Illinois. We talked a lot, and Atlanta had reached out to Tom about coaching the Hawks. And Tom's calling every day, and we're talking about pros, cons. What do you think about it? And I thought Tom was going to do it. And he calls back one day and he says, "Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, but they want you to do it." so for me talking to Tom about Tom doing it, it came back to Tom talking to me about me doing it with the Hawks. So we decided to do it. It was kind of we got fired in our third year, but it was in a healthy way. It was kind of a humbling experience, and we learned from it, and a lot of good relationships.
How long did it take you to adjust from coaching college to coaching in the NBA?
It's not so much the basketball itself, because you're always everyone's trying to put players in a position on the floor to be effective and do their best. But the relationship between coaching staff and front office and all the stuff around it, I was really naive. I did a terrible job, actually in that capacity. So it is a little bit like the front office, recruits your players, your team, and you coach them. It'd be like the AD recruiting and coaching, recruiting your team, and then you head coach coaching them. So there's going to be conflict if you're not all on the same page. And I didn't do a very good job of helping us be on the same page there.
Longer seasons and more games of the NBA. Did that become more of a grind and a challenge as the season gets longer for the NBA than it is in college?
Well, it is when you're not very good, and we weren't very good. We didn't win many games. So 82 games becomes a long season for sure. Yeah. And then you had playoffs, you had exhibition games, and playoffs. We never got to the playoffs, so we didn't have that tacked on. But no, it's a long season for sure. Back then you might play 4 games in 5 days, which is doesn't happen anymore. But it was in 164 days you play 82 games, so it's an average of every other day you're playing a game. Then you add travel to that. It becomes an interesting schedule for sure.
Absolutely. That just sounds tiring.
And without winning, it's even more tiring.
Yeah.
It's a pretty tough grind on those players.
Was it true in 2003 that there was a guarantee of $125 to season ticket holders if the Hawks didn't make the playoffs?
No, I don't think so. It was kind of kind of twisted around a little bit. I think my objective was that should we make the playoffs, that the first round tickets would be free to the season ticket holders. But it was kind of twisted around to where the guarantee came into effect, which kind of was a little bit inaccurate, but we rolled with it anyhow.
You go as an assistant for 1 year with the Knicks before coming to UNLV?
We did. Actually, when we were in Atlanta as the head coach, we tried to hire Don Chaney, who was assistant with the Knicks at that time, to be an assistant in Atlanta. And he almost did it, but decided not to. So he stayed in New York and then subsequently became the head coach in New York of the Knicks. And so when we got fired, Don called and said, "Hey, you tried to give me a chance down there. If you want to come up here as an assistant." And I said, "Sure, we'll love to work with you for a year or a while." And so we did that. And then Isaiah came in January of that first year and fired everyone. So we didn't last very long.
You end up coming to UNLV from 2004 to 2011, and you coached your son, Kevin, who's now the head coach for the Running Rebels, who transferred from ASU. What was it like, first of all, being able to coach your son?
It was great. We kind of were able to skip all the awkward moments because Kevin had graduated from Arizona State. He redshirted his first year there, then graduated. So he played a lot of ball in the Pac-12 and, had a good career there. So then he's actually the first grad transfer with that rule change to move from one school to another and play right away. So we did that in 2007, I believe it was. Kevin came up and was a point guard on that team. We had a really good team because we had all the pieces back minus a point guard. So Kevin fit in very well, and the players wanted him there because they needed a point guard, and he'd already played a lot at Arizona State, so it wasn't like he was playing because he was our son. So it all worked out great. Kevin, one of the more enjoyable years in coaching, having the son there every day. It might have been stressful on my wife, Barb, watching her son play every day, but it was great. We had a great experience.
At Kansas State, Big 12, you go to the SEC, you go to the Big 10, and then you end up at the Mountain West. how was that transition from being from Power 5 conferences coming into the Mountain West?
It was great. Of course, we'd done the other, stops that, like you mentioned, and level of play at that time in the Mountain West was really, really good. BYU was great. San Diego State was great. The coaching in that league was really good. A lot of outstanding coaches. It was a little different in not being a non-Power 5 one school, but at that time we were getting at least 3 teams, if not 4 teams, in the NCAA tournament every year. So that's how powerful that league was at that time. And so it was a good challenge and fun experience, and loved our time in Las Vegas.
You took the team to Sweet 16 for the first time since 1991, which was under Coach Jerry Tarkanian. That team had a record of 30-7, which was I think your only season with 30 wins in the collegiate level. What was so special about that 06-07 team?
As we mentioned earlier, we had a lot of really good players returning from the year before. We had a good year the year before, but we were minus the point guard, and then Kev came in. So the pieces just fit very well together. We had really good players. Joel Anthony, who went on to a 10, 12-year career in the NBA as a shot blocker in the middle. Wendell White was a really good scorer. Michael Ume, terrific guy on the perimeter. Wink Adams. We had a veteran group that really played well together and meshed well together and pulled like crazy for each other.
Speaking of Kevin, and we mentioned it, that he's now the head coach at UNLV, going to be entering his first season here coming up in the fall. What is it like you as a coach and a dad, a former player, to see them take over as a head job now?
Well, certainly as, we've had former players take over as head coaches. We've not had a son take over as a head coach before. So this will be our first experience with that, but I'm sure it'll be nerve-wracking. It'll be stressful. It'll be great. It'll be fun. It'll be all the things that you might imagine, like watching your son or daughter play. That's the best thing and also the most stressful thing as a parent. And I'm sure watching him now as a head coach will be the same thing. It'll be the most stressful thing, but also the most satisfying thing too.
For my listeners, I help high school athletes get college scholarships. I had a father whose daughter was a golfer, and they went on a visit, and she got to play with the team. And he said, I've worked with some of the baddest criminals in the world and gone face to face with some of the meanest people in the world and never flinched. I've never been so nervous when my daughter put the ball in the tee on the first hole for a college practice round. He said, I was sweating bullets. He said, I never believed I'd be so nervous.
I totally get that. Any parent does, because again, you think, okay, the most fun possibility is watching your kids play. And that is very true, but it's also the most stressful because you want so badly for them to have a good experience. You want them to enjoy it. You want them to have some success, and it's very stressful.
From 2011 until 2021, you go to University of Oklahoma. How was it when you first got there? Because the program was in need of rebuilding again. And how difficult was the tough start there?
It was a good transition. We had good guys. We didn't win a lot of games that first year, but they worked hard and they tried and had a good recruiting class right off the bat, and then got better each year and into the Final Four, 4 or 5 years later. So, but it was good. Great administration. And President Boren at that time, the university president, Joe Castiglione, one of the top ADs in the country without question. Administration was great. Facilities were good. Resources were available. Academics were great. So it was a good transition.
Coach, how did you find out about Buddy Hield, and how did you end up getting him to commit to you at Oklahoma?
Actually, our first year there, we went to Sunrise Christian, which is a prep school in right near Wichita. And Steve Henson went up there to watch this other kid that was a 6'7" forward, and came home and said, Coach, I'm not sure that guy quite works for us, but there's a sophomore on that team that is unbelievable. Leader and gym rat and enthusiasm and energy and all the things that is Buddy Hield. So we started recruiting Buddy and at that time, and And, again, he wasn't as highly recruited as what, you might think. He kind of came on his senior year there late where some other schools started getting in there. But I think the fact that we were in there early on Buddy and developed a little relationship early made him feel that tightness, closeness with Oklahoma. And we got him. And but he just was everything you know about him today. Just a great energy guy, great team guy, great worker, became a great shooter, outstanding leader. And then, just finished his 5th year in the NBA and doing a great job there too.
Fun to watch, and so was Trae Young, who was the first player in college basketball history to lead the country in both points and assists. I think the assist part is what people probably are going to forget more just because of the way that Trae Young could score the basketball.
Yeah, Trae was doing anything, things that first 15 games of his freshman year that had never been done in college basketball. He was scoring, he was assisting, and like you say, he led the country in both. And we knew by Christmas that he was a one-and-done guy, and no one projected that coming out of high school. So he's just got that great skill level, great speed with the basketball, great imagination, as a passer, as a playmaker. And then not only does he have the imagination, but also the ability to finish the play and be accurate with the passes. So, and he did that this year in the playoffs in the NBA. So Trae's an unbelievable talent level and will have a great career.
Did you start seeing that he was going to be a one and done guy before everybody else did, like in practices and stuff, start seeing that development just skyrocket?
Well, we probably saw it along with everyone else because in practice he was outstanding. But then in the games, and the results he's getting and the points he's scoring, the assists, and just statistically, like with everyone else, we're starting to realize that he's not going to be here very long. He's going to be a one-and-done guy, and we knew that like everyone else did by Christmas time.
When did the thoughts retiring start creeping in to your mind that this might be my last year?
Yeah, I never really thought about it too seriously. We thought we'd go for another year or two anyhow. I mean, everything, we love what we're doing. We still do. Then Lou Hill, one of our assistant coaches, was been the 5th year at Pan Am or Rio Grande Valley and passed away just suddenly at age 55 back in February. And, then Barb and I started talking about a little bit about our grandkids are getting older and we're missing out on some things that they can do. And so that became a little bit more real conversation. And then quite frankly, we're at the NCAA tournament and Kev gets the job at UNLV, announced as the head coach. And so then we say, well, everything's kind of aligning here that, let's think about doing it now. And the more we talked about it, the more we felt the timing was right and more, time with grandkids and more time with Kevin's program and cheering them on. And we're both healthy and feel good and able to travel and do things we want to do. So I figured this was a good time and got a good team coming back here at Oklahoma. And Porter Mosier comes in, a great coach that will be a great fit. So the transition turned out really well.
Most coaches that I've spoken to that have retired have always said they're going to miss the camaraderie of the guys and the coaching staff and the games. But looking back, Coach, do you think you'll miss more or not miss all the game and practice preparation that goes into being a head coach?
Like a lot of coaches, the practices in the summertime, the workouts in the fall, the time with the assistant coaches, the staff really is the most enjoyable part. The games aren't nearly as much fun as the preparation for the games. The games, and people start worrying about the winning, the losing. They start worrying about playing time. They start worrying about who's getting shots. All the things that all coaches deal with, and we loved all of it. But we really enjoyed most the preseason work going into the start of the games.
You've led 5 teams to the NCAA tournament. It's a signature accomplishment for rebuilding programs. What does that kind of mean to you looking back to take 5 programs, rebuild them, and lead them to the NCAA tournament?
We always looked at each year as a challenge, to help this team become as good as possible, to accomplish as much as they possibly can. And when you go into a program and you're inheriting a program, that goal is different in year 1 than maybe in year 3, 4, or 5. And, we've always had great assistant coaches, great staff. We've always had, really an enjoyable time working with those other coaches to put the best team on the floor we possibly can. And those coaches have always recruited good players. You don't go to the tournament without really good basketball players, and we've had those. And our goal is to help each of those players have a great experience and become as good a player as they can on the floor and as good a person as possible off the floor.
A question I like to ask all coaches that I've had on this podcast is, what is your definition of the word integrity?
Well, I guess we always think it's pretty straight up. You do things within the rules. You do things within the guidelines of the program. You do things for the right reasons, and those reasons always being to help others be as good as possible, both on the court and in the classroom and socially. So I think just not cutting any corners. We never were tempted to cut any corners. We, my dad always said anyone can cheat and win, so there's no satisfaction in that. I know, financially today, I guess some people think there is reasons to cheat, and certainly a lot of people do. But hopefully they get caught and they suffer the consequences, because I think the game is about doing it the right way and doing it for the right reasons.
For all you student athletes out there, regardless if you're in basketball or any sport, one of the main reasons I ask the question is, student athletes, integrity will make or break you in your athletic and academic careers. You must have integrity. And if you lose it, good luck trying to get it back.
Well, and two, you think about it, even in the bigger picture, we're about helping young people, have a great experience and develop, as much as they can while they're in college. But all these people are going to go on to be parents and moms and dads. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you'll want to act with integrity because you want your children to understand the value of that. And if you, cut corners in college, or if you play for someone that's cut corners, then all of a sudden you feel like, well, maybe that's the best way. And maybe you're a different parent as a result of that. But I think it's way, way more about the bigger picture going forward than the time that you spend in college.
You're a leader of a fight against cancer, which I love. I'm a cancer survivor myself, and you're the council chair of the Coaches versus Cancer, which is partnered with the American Cancer Society and the NABC, which is the National Association of Basketball Coaches. You've been a member since 2007. Was there a personal reason that you decided to get so involved with Coaches versus Cancer?
Everyone's been touched by cancer, whether it be a family member or a close friend, without question. And we got started back in the early 90s when the organization Coaches versus Cancer started. Norm Stewart, we were coaching in the Big Eight at that time in the late 80s when Coach Stewart was diagnosed with cancer. And so he started up a little 3-point challenge where he raised funds, for every 3-pointer his team made to fight cancer. And then the NABC, our National Organization of Coaches, took on the fight against cancer as their signature philanthropy. So coaches across the country do a great job of using their platform to raise awareness in the fight against cancer, to raise dollars, to put forth in research to find a cure for cancer. And so, we're just one of the coaches that got involved. And Natalie Morrison's our director nationwide with Coaches versus Cancer, does a great job in reaching out to coaches and kind of rallying everyone to be on the same page in the fight against cancer.
Where did the idea for suits and sneakers come from? Because it's brilliant, because it does raise awareness on that weekend. Not only is a TV focus on it, but it's just different to see coaches wearing sneakers on the sideline. So it brings attention to, if you're not familiar with it, of, hey, why are these coaches wearing tennis shoes? And then it brings awareness to the cancer.
Exactly. And that's the reason for doing it, just to bring awareness, bring attention to the need to fight cancer. And everyone's on board with that cause. And that is a good weekend for us, a good week there in late January, where, and even there's discussion now with coaches maybe taking on a more casual look, getting away from during the pandemic, everyone got away from the suits and ties. So we may be talking about a pullover now, along with the sneakers instead of suits and sneakers, but still it's a great attention getter and raises awareness and raises dollars in the fight against cancer.
You're the founder of the Coaches versus Cancer Las Vegas Golf Classic that's raised over $3.5 million in 11 years. You get a big turnout from all the coaches coming in town here in Las Vegas and playing that event?
We do. We do. Actually, last year was the biggest turnout we've ever had coming out of the pandemic year. Sanford Health out of South Dakota is a huge sponsor for us, a title sponsor. MGM Resorts International is our host sponsor in Vegas. They do a great job. We play Shadow Creek. We play Southern Highlands. We're going to add Cascada next year. We've got Summit on board, 4 great courses there. We'll have about 85 foursomes next year that come to Vegas in the middle of May, and about 25 of those foursomes will be headed by head coaches around the country. So they bring their boosters to town. It's become kind of a reunion because next year will be the 15th year that we've done it, and we've gone over $6 million now.
Wow!
During that time, so it's a great cause. Coaches do a great job, and we get great support from local folks in Vegas.
Listeners, let me tell you, he just named 4 top courses in Shadow Creek, Cascada, the Summit, and Southern Highlands. You're going to be hard pressed to find 4 better golf courses in one town than the 4 you just named here in Las Vegas.
No, that's very true, and they a good deal. They become a partner, and it's a good reason. People come back because they want to fight cancer, but they also have a good time while they're doing it. They don't lose sight of the reason they're in Vegas.
You're the 2019 recipient of the John R. Wooden Legends of Coaching Award. What's that mean to you, Coach?
Well, given that the other recipients, are all people that I respect a lot, from their impact on the game and their impact in the communities that they've been a part of. So we're honored by that, and that's as much a award to my wife, Barb, because she's as involved or more involved in communities than I am every step along the way. But yeah, that's a nice honor, and we appreciate it very much. And we hope to represent Coach Wooden well in that respect.
You mentioned your wife, Barb, and yourself have numerous awards and been involved in community and volunteer involvement. And for listeners, this is just a small sample. I can't even list them all. There's been so many, but American Cancer Society, Coaches versus Cancer that we just talked about. They've been involved in alcohol and drug abuse, domestic violence, scholarships for the deaf, homeless youth, health districts, boys and girls clubs, and many more. Coach, where does this passion come from your wife and you to get so involved in community and volunteer work?
Well, I think we both grew up in families that felt, strongly about giving back and being involved in the community. So it kind of stems from our parents to start with. But then just to see other coaches do that when they're growing up as a young coach, see other coaches that use their platform well to reach out and impact young people in a lot of cases, just seemed a natural thing to do. So when we became head coach, we definitely wanted to have that as a priority, to work with others in the community that do such a great job in volunteering their time to help young people or homeless or the abused or whatever the case might be. There's plenty of opportunity to reach out, and Barb certainly leads the way in helping us do that.
Now retired, you said you want to spend time with the grandkids in retirement. What else are you looking to do? Play more golf, travel more? What's on the horizon, Coach?
Well, all of that for sure. And quite frankly, I don't know what exactly lies ahead. Certainly all those things you mentioned are priorities, but I would imagine, we've been a part of a team for 45 years and more. So I would imagine we'll need connection. We'll need to feel significant with some group. And I don't know what that is right now, but eventually we'll get moved full-time to Vegas, and we know a lot of people there. We know a lot of charities there, and we'll reach out and see where we might fit best in reaching out and helping others.
When people look back and talk about Coach Lon Kruger's career, what do you want them to remember most?
I think you mentioned integrity. I think that's always really important, because that's important to us as it relates to representing our family and parents. They both passed, but still, everything we got kind of stems from their teachings early on. So that's important. We want our players to think that we were fair. We coached them hard, but we're always positive, always reinforced confidence. That was important to us. We wanted to be consistent. We weren't up one day, down the next day, negative one day, positive next day. Hopefully we're consistent every day. We wanted a culture in which our players wanted to get to come to practice. They wanted to be around us. I think when you're promoting confidence all the time, you're positive in your criticism, you're consistent in your approach. That gives you a better chance to have players that want to be around. But we were fortunate. We were blessed to have the opportunity to do something we love to do every day. We enjoy it every day, and we were able to do it for 45 years. So that's a pretty good stretch.
In that time, and I'm going to end it on this, your coaching tree that your son has just joined is now 16, and there's some fabulous names on this, people. Dana Altman and Steve Henson, the late Lou Hill, Tim Jankovic, Rob Judson, Marvin Menzies, Eric Musselman, Derek Thomas, Jock Vaughn, and your son, Kevin, Clayton Bates. I mean, I could keep naming all these names on your coaching tree. How much do you pay attention, or were you able to pay attention to the people that you've helped move forward in the career?
We pay a lot of attention. We're huge fans of all those folks, and we follow them closely, and we still, of course, maintain communication and contact. I think that goes back to when you identify good people on the front end, and all those people worked with us or played for us or whatever, then there's a good chance that you're going to have a good tree, because all those people are good people, and they're going to do good things in their lives. And as a result of them doing good things, that makes our tree more enjoyable, I guess.
Today's show is brought to you by aromaretail.com. Your sense of smell is the first to develop in all of our senses. Even before we are born, our sense of smell is fully developed and functioning. It's a low-cost, simple, and easy to set up and use. Pure-grade fragrance oils. It's the least expensive solution for environmental scenting, and they ship within 24 hours. Get your house smelling wonderful, or your office. I've been fortunate enough to have this in mine. They have over 80 fragrances, resorts, places, moods, seasonal, you name it. Aroma Retail has it. If you go to the show notes or to my website, beforethelightspod.com, and go to the sponsor page and click on the link, use the code LIGHTS10. That's LIGHTS10 to get 10% off your order. I'm telling you, if you want your house to smell like a bakery or one of the resorts here in Vegas, Aroma Retail is your connection to it. Coach, thanks for taking some time and being on the show Before the Lights. I've enjoyed it.
Tommy, thank you. My pleasure.
If you would, please rate and review the show. 5 stars, nice comments are always appreciated. And follow us on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast. Until next time, everybody, thank you for listening to Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. A salute. A chin chin.